So what is four-limb technique and why does every amplified cellist need it? Using different types of pedals as a cellist is a perpetual challenge. Now, I've made a couple of videos about pedal board design and layout on the electric string player page, and you can check them out here as they're some of the most popular videos we've ever made. But the truth is, if we want to get beyond just being able to operate one or two individual sounds or maybe a basic looper, we need to develop a dexterity and awareness in our feet that can allow us to have creative and expressive control of our performance and our gear in real time. And by the way, if you want to check out some of these concepts in action, check out the video that this is taken from, entitled 5 Improvisations. And you'll hear some quick examples of these techniques applied to hip hop, new metal, old school, neo soul, and more. So if you're trying to go beyond just on-off switching of your pedals or using your looper in creative ways, I hope this video will give you some powerful tools in rethinking how you're interacting with your equipment and how to achieve much more creative freedom as a performing and improvising cellist in 2025. What I do in these performances really wouldn't be possible without spending a lot of time thinking about and developing principles for approaching the left and right foot. This isn't the kind of thing that any of us learn in conservatory class as cellists, but the truth is it took me a lot of trial and error to really create a rig that gave me full access to my creativity on stage. And so I want to save you guys years of time by sharing some of these ideas with you. When it comes to live looping, it's one thing to have all of the music written out or pre-scripted. In this case, a lot of your favorite one-man bands on YouTube can simply walk around their room and change instruments because everything, whether it be changing the sounds or doing different things with different types of loops, have all been pre-scripted. In other words, the computer or software is pushing the pedals for them. But being able to change effects, manipulate sounds, and use different looping techniques spontaneously and improvisationally in real time requires a completely different approach. And as a cellist who usually has both of their hands full, I had to develop a four-limb approach to get around this problem. In other words, I've learned to utilize both of my feet as well as both of my hands as part of my musical instrument, treating my pads and controllers as an extension of my musicality, just like a drummer or organ player with their feet. In order to do this, I needed a very specific and thoughtful approach, from everything to gear choice, to how I laid out my pedals and my workflow, all the way to developing an efficient and comfortable pedaling technique that would allow the process to be ergonomic and to give me full access to my creativity on stage. So the first and most important principle I want to share with you guys is something I call fanning. And this just refers to the shape, a windshield wiper type shape, that our foot makes when we're pivoting on our heel. The most fundamental principle for all of us as cellists has to be that if our feet move, the cello is going to move, and we're going to be less stable, less comfortable in performance, right? So the ability to be able to keep our heel grounded and thereby keeping our feet and the rest of our bodies really grounded is paramount. That's got to be a first principle. So a lot of the time when we're sitting in front of our pedal boards, we'll have our foot right below the pedals that we're about to press. Now, this is not an ideal position because what this means is that now you're sliding or stepping your foot forward. And in both cases, that is much less comfortable and ergonomic than simply doing something like this. You can repeat this even if you don't have a pedal board in front of you right now, or if you're not holding a cello between your legs. And it's pretty obvious that not only is fanning a more stable approach to reaching your switches, but it also makes for a lot less movement, which means it's easier to keep track of where you are. And I always feel like a goal for me when I'm playing, particularly with my Morningstar, but also with the Keith McMillan as well, is to not have to look down all the time. In other words, just like we play our instrument without using tapes, if we have techniques and pedaling techniques that keep us stable and grounded, we should be able over time to learn the feel of where whatever sounds in our head are in our feet. And that's an awesome goal to shoot for if you really want to achieve any level of spontaneity and freedom while using this type of gear. And this leads really smoothly into my next principle, which is rest position. You've probably seen young Suzuki violinists or cellists, they really emphasize what does rest position look like. And it's important, right? It's just like the space in between the notes is important. How we anticipate and set ourselves up for success, in this particular case, the ability to use this fanning technique instead of moving or lifting our feet is key. So you'll notice that with the Keith McMillan, I tend to leave my foot between the two main pedals that I'm going to use. So I'm not actually pushing either of them down, but what I can do from there is I can go from here to here relatively easily. Now this is really cool once you add the cello, because instead of trying to do this, which is again moving the instrument and causing all kinds of problems, it's a lot more comfortable to do this. And by resting in between the pedals, I know where I am. So most of the time I'm pedaling 1 and 2 because those are the most ergonomic. So I usually place the effects that I'm going to be using the most and featuring the most in those spots. And by keeping my foot in the middle, that allows me again to move from side to side, staying on my heel. And with the Morningstar, very much the same deal, right? I have my foot gently between the two of them. In other words, with my toes pointed straight out from the knee. That's where I orient my pedal board and my controllers so that that's exactly dead center where rest position is. That way, if I'm going to reach for another pedal, I know what tweaking my heels feels like, right, from the ankle. And I also know what feels straight and natural again. And that gives me yet another reference point that I can return to and reset to when I'm going back to the pedals or switches that I use the most. Again, the goal here is to have as many points of reference so that we're able to really feel where we are down there easily and naturally without having to look very much. And this also falls in line with a universal principle that we probably all know from our cello teachers and working with our instruments, that we want to have our gear, in this case, our switches and our controllers, fit our bodies, right, instead of trying to change our bodies to fit our instruments. That is always a losing proposition, right? And this leads to the third principle, which is 2 points of contact. In order to feel comfortable and stable doing anything, we need to have at least 2 points of contact with whatever we're interfacing with. So in the same way, a unicycle is a lot less stable than a bicycle because we have 2 wheels on the ground, or when we shift, having at least 2 fingers, right, or a finger and another part of our body touching the cello is what really allows us to keep track of where we are in space. The same thing is true with our feet, right? So a lot of the time, again, with the switches that I'm using the most, I'm going to have my foot in rest position and gently touching, or at least being able to feel where both of those switches are. So you'll notice a lot of the time I kind of have a good awareness of where this guy is and where this guy is. And then when I want to use it, I just move over again, tilting on my heel, pivoting on my heel, much easier than picking up my foot. Now this is really cool once you add the cello, because instead of trying to do this, which is again moving the instrument and causing all kinds of problems, it's a lot more comfortable to do this. And by resting in between the pedals, I know where I am. I have 2 points of contact, right? Or I can fan out my foot a little bit, and now I'm between these two. That really allows me to orient myself in space, right? Because now I have 2 points of contact. Even if I'm going to do a quick jump to a different switch, knowing exactly where my foot is and being able to come back to that and feel that and remember that is really, really key for me. Last but not least, if you're in need of a lot of switches during your performance, you use 50 effects in one song, or you've got 30 loops going. If you need to reach a higher part of your pedal, hey, if you've gotten this far in the video, it would really help me out if you could smash the like and subscribe button. It helps me share this content with artists like you all over the world. Thanks. Make sure that instead of lifting your heel, which again causes you to lose your place, lose your reference points, instead try the technique of keeping your heel on the ground and lifting your foot as little as possible to reach that next point, and practice that movement over and over again. You may notice this requires engaging your core a little bit, right? But it's a heck of a lot less work and a lot easier to maintain your feeling of where you are in space with that heel down. Slightly unique movement that many of you guys have probably never tried, or certainly never practiced in the context of your cello playing, but a very, very valuable one. Well, guys, if you've made it this far in the video, you probably know that content like this isn't available anywhere else on the internet. And you're probably aware of all of the firsts for creative string playing that you got to see in this video. So if you want to support that, and I hope you do, you can join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. But it's not just support to my music and the artists that help me make it. You'll get swag like t-shirts and stickers. You'll get access to free sheet music. And to celebrate this particular release, my amazing admin Moses has transcribed all of the improvisations, and we're going to be making the sheet music available to you, along with the Dave's beats and the Helix pack of preset effects, all free for Patreon subscribers. So again, I'm committed to giving you an insane amount of value for helping me create this music. Thanks again.